what I'm going to say is sort of a introduction to the panel that's going to come up next, where Rick and I talk about the role of NASA and the role of the private sector in commerce and what can each of these sectors do. And I will argue at that panel that what NASA can do is if it focuses on a long-term goal of Mars, then it's doing something it can do, and that has implications for other things it ought to do in the near term. So that's why I wanted to talk about why Mars. My talk is this Martian life. Not our lives, but I play them on TV. 3 short stories. So story 1 is second Genesis. We know life started on Earth. We know life is present on Earth. We assume it started here. Fundamental science question we have about Mars is, did it start there? Was there a second Genesis? I emphasize the second Genesis, not just life on Mars. I'll explain why in a minute. So what we're searching for, the big prize, is life, but not as we know it. Here, of course, is Spock and Kirk and Devil in the Dark, episode 26, the original series you all remember, of course, where Spock uses his tricorder, not just to detect light, but to detect silicon-based light. Quite a remarkable tool. You need his tricorder. And of course, then they shoot it. It gets to the point that what we're searching for is life, not as we know it. That's what we're looking for on Mars. And we know what we mean when we say life, not as we know it now. We know what an alien is. When I was a kid, way, way, way back, an alien was a creature from another planet. So if you met someone and say, are you from another planet? They said, yes, they were an alien. That was the operational definition of an alien. That is no longer the case. Now the operational definition of an alien is an organism that is not on the Earth tree of life, regardless of what planet they come from. We have learned over the last 20 years that all life on Earth maps into one biochemical and genetic system. That is the life forms from Earth. And an alien, shown here, is a picture of aliens from the secret NASA alien storage locker, is an organism that is not on our tree of life. And in fact, people have suggested that maybe there's aliens here on Earth, organisms, microorganisms that we have not discovered that are not on this tree. Or if we go to Mars, we may find organisms that are on this tree, even though they're on another planet. Then they're still not aliens, even though they live on Mars. It indicates that Earth and Mars have a common ancestor. So where are we going to search for evidence of life? Well, there's lots of worlds in our solar system where we could look. Other worlds with liquids, Mars, Europa, Enceladus, and even Titan. Mars is the closest, and it's also unique in that of all these worlds of astrobiological interest, it's the only one that also is of interest from the point of view of human exploration. That's what makes Mars unique. Not that it's the best place in the solar system to search for evidence of life, but that it's the only place in the solar system where the scientific interest in the search for evidence of life connects with the human interest in human exploration and long-term activities on Mars. So why Mars? And from a science point of view, evidence of past liquid water, the presence of an atmosphere of CO2 and nitrogen, and the cold, dry state, which gives the potential for storing evidence of life. We have a good chance of finding it there. Why isn't Mars habitable today? The short answer is it's too small. Size matters. The problem with Mars is not that it's too far from the sun, but that it's too small. It is shown here to scale with the Earth. Mars is 1/10 the mass of the Earth, and as a result of that, it has no plate tectonics, less gravity, obviously, and no magnetic field. All 3 of those effects, no plate tectonics, less gravity, and no magnetic field, cause Mars to have lost its atmosphere and get cold and dry. All 3 of them. We're not sure of the relative importance of these effects. I've ordered them in the way I think they're important. Different researchers would order them in different ways. But those are the 3 things that come from being too small. We think a planet has to be this big, half the size of the Earth, to be habitable. Mars is 1/10 the size of the mass of the Earth. Okay, back to the search for second evidence of life. The reason we now worry that if we go to Mars and find life, and it is not a second genesis. It is part of our same tree of life, is because we now know that rocks have been knocked off Mars, flown through space, and landed on Earth. We have in our meteorite collection some 20 or so rocks that have come from Mars. We know they come from Mars because on the bottom there's a little plaque, made in Mars. No, not really. But just as good. We know they come from Mars because inside these rocks there's little air bubbles of gas, and the gas has the same composition as the Martian atmosphere as measured by Viking. So we have rocks that have came from Mars, and we know that they could have transferred organisms from Mars to Earth. And we assume that the reverse process could also happen. So it's no longer a foregone conclusion that life on Mars would represent a separate origin than life on Earth. They are not necessarily aliens. What we do know about Mars from an astrobiology point of view that makes it important, as I said before, is water, presence of water.